Just...
Welcome to your awakening. Please take calm as your reality is adjusted.
Oh, slight click buttons quicker. Hello folks, welcome to Virtual Shamanizing with me, the Heavy Cookie Monster. This is just going to be a quick hello and then I'm going to play a load of stuff at you. I sort of anticipated this. Does that mean I'm for psychic? And no one in the chat room, and according to my caster server page, no one logged in listening. So for those of you that are not out there listening, I'm going to carry on regardless. I'm going to play a whole chunk of stuff which I want to play anyway. Yeah, it's going to be mainly music, and yeah, I will come back and talk at some point, but I think it's going to be a fairly short one. Back soon. Hello, welcome back. Yes, it is Virtual Shamanizing with me, the Hairy Cookie Monster. I just played some real aggressive, nasty stuff at you. Yeah, don't panic. You'll be alright. Yeah, and with that clip from Bill Hicks as well, the classic "It's a Ride" clip. We will carry on with some more music in a minute or two. I just thought I'd interject at this point. It's probably going to get a bit more fractal. I've got no links for you whatsoever, although I might pluck one or two as we go along, depending on what I'm talking about. Or decide to rant about. Yeah, if you're listening to this, you're listening to me ranting. Could it be something to do with the Star David alignment that happened the other day? I don't know. Putting that, really speculative coincidence theory hat on. What's going on? Yeah, anyway, I'm going to play some more stuff at you. A lot of news stories at the moment. Like I said, I haven't got any links. I deliberately haven't plucked out any links for today. 1st of the 8th, yes, I didn't mention the date, and I mentioned what I played at the beginning. Aphex Twin, Come to Daddy. I jumped slightly between one mix into another, and yeah, the Bill Hicks "It's a Ride" clip. Various stories in the news at the moment about the Manning trial and verdict, the stories about Snowden getting asylum for at least a year anyway in Russia, etc, NSA spying, X Keyscore, is it hashtag X Keyscore, something like that, I think it was called. Yeah, all these little bits coming out into the mainstream media. Cameron wants to block your porn, doesn't he? Yeah, keep yucking it up, Chucky. Yeah, ha ha ha, it's just Cameron because he wants to block pornography, isn't it? Yes. Various stories about the political correctness gone wild in the Twitter streams. Various threats being put out there. Yeah, can this all be just social engineering, cyber false flag? Threats being made across the Twitter sphere to certain public figures or personalities or political figures, whatever. Social engineering, cyber false flag, maybe. Pushing towards that. We need to crack down to keep you safe. You want to be safe, don't you? You don't want all these crazy paedophiles that lurk in the internet coming to look for you, do you? No, must lock it all down. Yeah, problem, reaction, solution, maybe. We'll come back to that. I'm going to play some more stuff which I find appropriate. It might get a bit late again. This might be a while. Probably about 15 minutes worth or more. Anyway, yeah, I'll just shut up and play it. Back in a bit. Sorry if the jump there was a bit loud at the end. After that quiet finish of the Just In Me song. And you get the big jingle coming in. Yes, anyway. Hello, welcome back. Yeah, like I said, a bit heavier, and it might carry on a bit heavier as we go anyway. But a good point to intercede. Hydraulic fracturing. Trust in me. It will be good for you. Look at all the money you can make. If you didn't happen to catch it today or watched it this afternoon, go and check out the latest episode of the UK column. Find it on their YouTube channel. I've been having some weirdness with my YouTube again. It doesn't send me notifications properly for a lot of stuff. Yeah, you know, that adds into various things that have been going on at the moment. But anyway, yeah, if you hadn't seen it, excuse me, if you hadn't seen it, please go and check it out. They cover quite a lot of good topic stuff that I'd already sort of been mooching through the news at, and then I watched their broadcasting. It was like, oh yeah, they mentioned it anyway, good. It's part of why I didn't feel a reason to have loads of links for news stories, because if you want a good review of the general news stories at the moment, watch the UK column. They're doing a good job of picking up on the various mainstream media output, and as well today's upload included an interview with Ian R. Crane, all about hydraulic fracturing, well, primarily about that subject, but he dips into a few other bits and bobs as well, worth listening to. And yes, I know, I shouldn't say I know all of, but I've heard the various commentary and suspicions about Ian Crane, but looking at the message, not the messenger. And at the moment, this one particular subject is very much hot topic at the moment in the UK, here in the UK, with what's going on at Balcombe. Yes, trust in me, and the various mainstream media manipulations of the whole topic of hydraulic fracturing, fracking. Yeah, I can agree with Sam the blogger, S. Williamism as well. Go and check out his channel. When he says that the word fracking is really a bit of a deliberate manipulation. We should call it what it is. It more aptly describes the process and should have, hopefully, more impact for people, just how much this process is damaging the environment you live in. Hydraulic fracturing. Yeah, anyway, if you catch up with those two, especially like I said, the UK column episode, it will fill you in a lot of that detail. But the situation as ongoing in Balcombe has been as well in Blackpool. You can look at the history for yourself, investigate that for yourself, about the situation ongoing to do with hydraulic fracturing here in the UK. Yes. Can this not now be seen with the comparisons of mainstream media to alternative media and other available info sources, which people can look for if they bother to get off their virtual asses in terms of looking for information rather than just accepting what's handed to them? Rather than just allowing you to be spoon-fed by the mainstream media, you actively look into things for yourself. Choose where you go to find out the information, therefore you get a bit more of a broader picture of what's going on. Is there not now enough in the general topic, the general conversation about hydraulic fracturing and the devastating effect it has compared to the money it can make, and how this whole process is being pushed upon the public, no matter their outcry? I mean, the situation in Balcombe is ongoing. As it was in Blackpool, they did their supposed test drilling and whatever, and caused earthquakes, etc., etc., and the testing has now moved to Balcombe, supposedly. And as I say, ongoing the protests there, etc. But can this not now be clearly seen to be a corporatist controlled push for making as much money as possible out of this process, which undeniably, as far as I'm concerned, undeniably has a long-term detrimental effect to the organism as a whole, i.e. the environment that you exist in. As pointed out, I think it was Ian Crane that pointed it out, listening to him talking about the fact that the situation in Balcombe and the site they're trying to set up there will be the first time it's ever been done in such a densely populated area, which means that there's a lot of people there that could suffer from this in the future, let alone immediately within this generation of people who actually have the rigs. They're talking about the knock-on after effects, long-term effects of damage to the environment. How much more evidence do people want about how this system, this so-called state, this so-called government, political system of supposed democracy that we have in these Western nations is not blatantly a corporatocracy of oligarchs? How else you want me to describe it? You want to dive into all the semantic pedantics of political theory and ideologies and use this, that or the other ism or ist word to describe this thing? You know, let's have a play in the field of academic jargon, and we can present whatever different box you want to put it into, to decorate it with. But when it comes down to it, when you strip away all the bullshit of what is actually going on, isn't that just exactly what's going on? How much more evidence do you want that you are living within the empire, the imperialist empire? This is what it quite happily has been doing for many decades in other parts of the world that were outside the hinterland. Now they can see an opportunity to profit from doing this shit within the hinterland, because they themselves are in positions where it's not going to affect them. It's not going to be in their backyard. They are the ultimate NIMBYs. Because they have the wealth and power to put themselves in that position and to control that position. It will be done in your backyard. It will be done to you and your children, not theirs. No, they'll be nicely, safely tucked away in their little rarefied Agenda 21 mega city penthouses. The empire in the UK, this crazy mixture of supposedly inert monarchy, you know, it's just presented as being a bunch of actors who parade around in front of the tourists to keep the money flowing in for tourism, isn't it? Yeah, our royal family has no influence at all over what happens in the country, do they? No, not at all. Keep yucking it up, Chucky. You keep yucking it up, it's going to come and knock on your door sooner or later. Keep yucking it up. And yes, I think that might be, well, maybe a good time. I'll just sort of, I know I'm doing my Virtual Shaman sing thing. I think I might call a close to this. I'm very much contemplating at the moment that this sort of live broadcast thing has done its thing. And I should be approaching things in a different way. I'm very much similar to what Blue Bus was talking about a while ago when he went on hiatus. I very much feel that it needs to become more of a group conversation thing, not just me sitting here intoning like some know-it-all moral HQ for people to get reassurance and validation from. Whatever is, to me, it's more about the communication and helping people to feel their own connection and find their own power and find their own confidence within themselves, their selves, not their egoic distractions or whatever other bullshitism or box they get corralled into. We can keep having academic semantic arguments round and round and round about what particular side of the argument you're supposed to be on, whether you're left or right, and how you have to be on one side or the other, otherwise you're the enemy, you are the other. It becomes ridiculous when the rubber meets the road, when feet meet the street, when you're facing day-to-day practicalities of, yes mate, that's all well and good, but I have to go to a food bank to be able to have enough food to survive in this economy. I have to go and work for my benefits, i.e. workfare program, to survive in this economy, etc, 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 and on it goes. I could reel off loads and loads of news stories. Like I said, these topics are now becoming mainstream. These are no longer the topics of the crazy tinfoil hat, doom monger, anarchistic, ne'er-do-wells, disenfranchised, disillusioned, etc, etc, usual labels they use to pejorative and ostracise the fringe elements that are trying to point a warning to the direction that the herd is careening in. Being a collaborator will be no defence against the machine when it eventually has consumed everybody else. You will be next. Just following orders. That classic excuse, just following orders, no longer will cut the wash. The herd will trample over you and consume you once it starts realising you have been helping to push it in that direction. A quote for you before I play a bunch of other stuff. Men, it has been well said, think in herds. It will be seen that they go mad in herds, while they only recover their senses slowly and one by one. It's from Charles Mackay, a poet, pre-First World War poet. That phrase, that quote is often paraphrased into humans go mad in herds and only come to their senses individually and slowly. Yes. Is the herd starting to realise that the house is on fire, that the Titanic is careening straight towards the iceberg, that this train is most definitely going off the rails and heading towards a imperialistic new world order future? Yeah, use some cheesy cliches to frighten all the uncertain. Yeah, the new world order. Ooh. Yeah, let's start putting our tinfoil hats on. Anyway, I'm going to play a bunch of stuff. It'll be a bit heavy stuff, but yeah, same as usual from me. I'm sure you'll survive. Another quote for you. Without music, life would be a mistake. And that was Friedrich Nietzsche, even though a lot of people try to point him out as being a right-wing lunatic or a nationalistic or a crazy man who finished his life living in a insane asylum, yes, etc. I know all those things. Message, not messenger. Without music, life would be a mistake. Anyway, yes, I'll be back in a bit. You have the power. Hello, welcome back. Yes, it is Virtual Shamanizing with me, the Hairy Cookie Monster, etc, etc. For tonight it is anyway. We'll see how things go. Have I actually mentioned what songs I've been playing? I think I mentioned the first few, didn't I? Did I mention Anthrax, I Am the Law? Yeah, a classic old cheesy clip of the Empire theme tune, Empire Strikes Back theme tune, and Korn, No Place to Hide, Jungle Book tune, Trust in Me, yeah, said that, and then just said Skindred and with Babylon, and the Prodigy, Their Law, and MIDI singing Welcome to the Citizenship. Yes, hello, welcome to the citizenship. Welcome to your awakening. Please stay calm as your reality is adjusted. Yes. I was ranting a little bit earlier. I'm going to sort of rant further on from that point and try and wind it in a certain direction, which will probably make sense for those regular listeners, those usual suspects out there. May not make a lot of sense to everybody else, but yeah, whatever. Part of this is the fact that I was never intending doing this to be any attempt to create, I wasn't trying to create a cult, I wasn't trying to create a business, I wasn't trying to sell anything, whatever, loads of the usual caveats. Yet the conversation still goes on, and as I said earlier, just how much evidence do people want before they start sort of getting the sniff of which direction the wind is blowing? And part of this recently has been just as I've talked about in some of my vlogs and some of previous episodes of the Virtual Shamanizing Show thing, whatever this is, the synchronicities and the commonalities seem to have grown, certainly within the past couple of years. Yeah, certainly in the past several months they've become a cacophony as far as I'm concerned, and I'm fully aware of the possibility of confirmation bias and building my own tunnel reality, etc, etc. Yeah, let's have another in-depth academic semantic argument, but these threads and themes and commonalities have become, as far as I'm concerned, quite dominant for the majority of people. Like I said earlier, a lot of these topics are now becoming mainstream, and a lot of the activity we've seen via the mainstream media, because it's not just the print media, press or news anymore. They have quite nicely spread themselves into all kinds of media. Yes, using the ubiquitous generalisation of they, them, the nasty ones, the evil ones that lurk in the dark. That's part of this in a way. A young quote instantly sprung to mind then. One does not become enlightened by imagining beings of light, but by making the darkness conscious. And that's why, for me, the majority of this, isn't it? Like I said, I've not been trying to create a cult or whatever. It's to shine a light on the stuff that's going on, and hopefully plant some signposts or wave some flags over those things that will help people find their way through this cacophony that is going on at the moment. In terms of the mainstream media distraction, don't look at this hand, look at the sexy assistant, while we pilfer your pockets and destroy the environment around you, etc, etc. All the ways when you focus it down to the instantiated three-dimensional reality of what the effects are on the street, in your community, day-to-day effects. And certainly over the past few years I've ranted a lot about the crushing Dickensian, Malthusian ideology that has been dominant in the direction that the controllers, the owners, the rulers, whoever they are that pull the strings and press the buttons, has been driving this train that is supposedly democratic society, for want of better words, without semantic arguments. But yeah, anyway, rambling slightly off track to what I wanted to say. A lot of this stuff recently has become almost a joke to me, in respect of it is becoming somewhat of a circus. And I know over the years, certainly recent years, back in the day these kind of voices were not so prevalent until the internet had grown and spread. But listening to those voices who constantly talk about how the truth movement or the pick whatever campaign activist group, pick your subtitle for which campaign the whatever particular activist group is advocating for, these people are a distraction, they are a circus, they are another part of the machine there to co-opt your energy and keep you occupied and keep you down and stop you actually getting anywhere, getting anything done. And as I say, I've watched that, I've read that, I've listened to that, I've seen that, I can say, yes, that stuff does go on, yes it does. And there's lots of evidence, there's lots of people out there, exposing all of that kind of stuff. But in the long run, I've found these commonalities still remain. And to me, the reason I pull things apart, the reason a lot of from a philosophical point of view, I'm a deconstructionist. Yes, in that respect, I do. I strip things apart, not just deliberately to find out how they work, but to find what are the roots of them. The way our societies are structured, the way science operates, and we are all worshippers at the altar of science now, is by building one paradigm on top of another, taking one tool and using it to create a better tool, and on and on and on that pyramid climbs, that growth from one to the next. That is classically interwoven in so much to do with the secret societies, the loads of different names I could reel out, the Masonic method, the Kybalion, I think is primary one for that. They're talking about the triumvirate and the two parents producing the child, the Hegelian dialectic, etc., etc. All these things are the two united create the next, and the next supposedly being better than the previous. That constant process of produced evolution. I find it to be true in the sense of humans operate in that manner. In your interpretive function of interacting with this 3D, 4D experience, you have to operate through that kind of system. That is just an inevitable product of a three-dimensional environment. You have that structured learning process and the way that the human mind works in that constructed fashion. So yeah, a lot of what I've done and do is deconstructionism, to look for the roots of where these things have begun from, to look for what are the base paradigms, what is the base stone that all this other distraction has been built upon. If you're gonna, classically again using that kind of paraphrased cliche, there's no point chopping at the leaves and the branches. You've got to look for the root and strike at the root. If these ideas hold any truism, or they hold any value to us as beings and society that we live in, etc., etc., then their root will stand firm. Truth fears no question. And there's been a certain amount of common themes and topics that keep recurring and are constantly repeated, yet it's as if the people saying them are all sat at one side or the other, one corner or the other of the circus tent. And even though they're all saying basically the same thing, they're not actually getting together in any manner in the centre of the circus ring to put all the pieces together. There's loads of people waving jigsaw puzzle pieces, and nobody wants to actually sit down and say, oh yeah, they do all fit together, look. I know that there's other people out there, whether they be radio hosts or video presenters or bloggers or whatever. There are lots of people out there that have been and still are and probably will keep on saying the same kind of thing that I'm saying now. There is a common unity already occurring and ongoing, and has been ongoing. There are people, lots of people, already going through that realization, or have been through that realization, and are working towards and moving towards as much as they possibly can, subjectively, relatively to their own life situation or position or whatever. Everybody is on an ongoing process. Too often people seem, and this is part of why I've done a lot of what I've done, too often people seem to be stuck into this idea that everything has to have a very defined beginning and end. One of the most psychologically, I feel, damaging, politically correct ideas has been this concept of closure. Sometimes there is never any closure. Some topics will go far beyond your lifetime and will maybe never ever see closure in any human being's lifetime. You know, think about the half-life of uranium. When is it? Something like 4.5 billion years. So all that radioactive waste that's been leaked into the environment will still be there after our sun has burnt out and died out and taken all the inner planets with it in its final death throes, according to all the, physicists and astrophysicists and whatever, and their scientific method. But I think you get the point. Too often people get stuck in this rigid idea of something in particular has to happen to say this is either the beginning or the end. There has to be an alien invasion, there has to be a meteorite from outer space, there has to be one final devastating false flag, there has to be a. Whereas meanwhile, they're all still talking about the same subjects, all still dancing around the same fire, beating the same drum rhythm, singing the same songs. Yes, I will play you some more stuff. I think this sort of sets the point. Hello, welcome back. Yes, it is Virtual Shamanizing with me, the hair cooking myself, blah blah blah. Yes, money making off man mad. What did I play? A clip from Alan Watts, the bit about the hoax, to make the point about that, looking for a beginning and an end, etc. Transglobal Underground doing Delta Disco. Egyptian pharaohs fell from the sky, and the Easy Star All Stars dub Side of the Moon, which I think is just a classic version of that song, definitely. Yes, money making off man mad. Anyway, this will be the last bit for me ranting. Yeah, wind it up and try and wind these threads together, what I was ranting about previously. Corporatism, money, destruction of your environment, of your biosphere, which includes you, yourself, your family, your lives, your relations, your friends, all the people you know, all the people you interact with. Corporatism. You are just more numbers on a book, on a ledger. You will be weighed as a commodity against the profit margins, and where there needs to be collateral cutbacks, there will be collateral cutbacks, because that corporatist, utilitarian, Malthusian ideology drives it. Therefore, the reality of life is inconsequential to the profit margin. Money, money, money. Yes, and talking about synchronicities, so weaving these threads in loosely. I know I've ranted about it before, people making money out of selling the truth, the various ways of the snake oil salesman attempting to deceive people into parting with their money in exchange for the answer, or the bottle of truth serum, whatever. But at the same time, I have no problem, I see no problem with people asking for donations. If you value the service that somebody's providing for you, whether they're putting out news info or articles or videos, documentaries, whatever, and you've got the money to be able to donate to help them do that, and do it. That leaves the choice freely in the consumer's hands. I've got no problem with that whatsoever. If anything, to me, that's part and parcel of the revolution, of the change that is going on. That is true democracy and people power, direct politics. If you don't like it, don't pay for it. If you thought it was awful, give it a thumbs down. Yes, and I know all the various traps into popularism, etc., etc., whatever. Like I said, we can constantly sit around having academic semantic arguments. But in the synchronistic sense, I know there's people out there that do that kind of thing. Yes, there are people and groups out there attempting to sell the truth, co-opt and corral direct people. But at the same time, I feel there are, I could say that I'm doing it myself, but I don't want to put myself in any kind of league table thing, whatever. There are lots of people out there that are doing what they can, the best they can with what they've got, to attempt to put this kind of information and perspective out there for people, make it accessible for people, and they're doing it of their own volition, of their own free time, and for no direct payment. They're not doing it as a job, they're not funded by anyone, whatever. They might survive on donations. Like I said, that's the exchange working properly there. I feel the communication of what is going on working as a symbiotic flow to give a beneficial outcome for both parties. It's not beneficial on one-sided. But yes, there are people out there attempting to do that, but I still find that they are quite often, like I was talking about earlier, all sort of assuming position in one part of the circus tent to another, and then putting their stuff out there in a sort of disconnected way to everybody else that's doing the same thing. They're all singing the same song without realising or without acknowledging the fact that they're all singing the same song. It sows the seeds for division and cults of personality, ideological polarisation, etc., etc., etc. I think there's a lot of commonality and common unity that is going on out there in terms of core topics, root paradigms, truisms that people are centred around and speaking about and trying to share with others. Maybe, like I was talking about earlier, as I said, I think I've sort of I feel I'm running to the end of the doing this thing on my own type environment. It needs to be more of a communication thing. We might be doing more roundtables and interviews or just general chats and conversations with people, stuff like that. It definitely, I think, has started to become that naturally anyway, in the way the social media has grown over the last few years and the way people are actively using it, and why, arguably, I feel that these topics are becoming mainstream. Because, truth fearing no question, these things are surviving the buffeting of being attacked by all the different groups out there that may want to disagree for whatever reason. And yet they are buffeting that hurricane, and they're still afloat and they're still going. The majority of people want to lead a happy and prosperous life, a healthy life, and they want the same for their loved ones, and we're all in the same boat. Apart from a few maybe deranged, crazy people that enjoy being hurt, those sadomasochists out there, etc. But for the vast majority of humanity, we're all trying to get to the same point. We're all desirous of the same direction, and a lot of people are all talking about that same kind of subject matter down at the root of it. Everything else is distraction, everything else is bullshit and noise, everything else is the whirl of the whirlwind, as they are sapping as much off you as they possibly can. Listen to quite a lot of stuff, read quite a lot of stuff recently. I'll reel off some names. I'm not doing this to name drop, I'm just doing this so that if you want to pursue the same kind of information, maybe you'll see the same kind of themes and topics that I'm sort of alluding to. Listen to various conversations that Ron Van Dyke has had with other people, Aristo and Peter Van Runt, and they're talking about the creative side of the energy flow, that right brain, free thinking, kind of mentality and philosophy and spirituality that is starting to become pervasive. It's starting to become into the mainstream. These are not sort of esoteric academic subjects that are talked about in lecture halls only, etc., anymore. Again, this is part and parcel of the rise of the internet and the sharing of information, the renaissance that I've talked about before, in the same way as the Gutenberg press helped fuel the fire of the prior renaissance. In the same manner, listening to Chunky Mark, he sort of touched on that exact point here and there in various uploads he's done recently, talking about Renaissance 2.0. Also, the Phoenix theme and meme has been mentioned here and there by various people, and this is something that's intrinsic to that Hegelian dialectic, the power of three, the taking the energy of the two parents to create the newborn Übermensch. That is the Phoenix process. That is the taking of the two to synthesize into the result you want, the new way, the new life, the new being, the meta being, etc., whatever. Listening to Vinny Eastwood, he's done a lot of great interviews recently and stuff. I think I mentioned one previously, the one round table they did, but he did an interview with a guy called Paul Levy about the idea of the psychopathic mentality being a virus, and how that idea does have ancient roots, and that as well links me into talking about, as other people have mentioned, and recently listening to Thomas Sheridan's Velocity of Now episodes. A lot of people have mentioned this recently, referring to the Cathars, the Phoenix meme, that idea of the dark archons being the psychopathic mentality parasitic virus that has been here all along and has just gradually positioned itself into a fortified position of power and control, and that is what is often referred to as the New World Order, the direction that supposedly these entities are attempting to lead humanity. And that as well links me into talking about shamanism and why I started doing this thing the way I'm doing it, why I have been doing it the way I'm doing it. Because in that looking for the root and looking for the direction of the flow of time, the arrow of time, where is this train heading, and how do you find out what is driving it? It is all a process of communication, communicating the now into the future from the past. So the methods of communication become important lessons to take on board. That's why I've very often, a lot of the time, it's been a big subject matter for me, is ranting about how the mainstream media corrupts the information flow or attempts to control it directly. How the use of language and the controlling of information flow can enable you to mould and control a mind and a spirit. If you want animals, you can breed animals, in reference to turning human beings into animals, dehumanizing them, making them into the disenfranchised peasant scum horde that you can then be justified in the eyes of the select collaborator citizens that agree to obey to your imperialist system. You can justify to them the mass culling of said peasant horde, the zombie horde of those that disagree. All that links into much of the deep root of a lot of what I've often talked about, but it comes down to communication. You can research and learn about, I might do this at some point, but I'm not going to set myself any promises. Work as I flow. There's a lot of information out there already anyway if you want to look into this, and this is partly touching on referencing the last Thomas Sheridan show that he did. He set about going on, he wanted to try for a week-long fast to allow himself to get into a shamanistic trance state via the reduction of intake of calories, etc. If you've ever done fasting, it's something that I do occasionally, but I've never tried to do 7 days. No way. I haven't tried that. Not saying I couldn't or wouldn't. It's just I haven't. But yeah, it is a method to reach into that shamanistic environment, not necessarily trance, but to get into that approach, that way of looking into the deeper parts of yourself, and for that connection, your connection to everything else, etc. That shamanistic flow is all about communication. You can, if you want to, like I was going to say, you go on the internet or wherever, go to the library, get books on it. You can learn about the traditions and the history and the lineage of what would academically be referred to as shamanism, the true sort of roots of that one particular version of animistic spirituality, because that's basically what it is in an anthropological definition. Go and find out about that for yourself. That to me is just one part of this whole perspective, because it's represented by different viewpoints and different colorations and different clothing and cultural affectations within different cultures and different time periods. Shamanism is not just restricted to those traditional, accountable, academically inscribed remnants of it that are in certain parts of the world. Yes, those do still exist. I'm very glad they do, and I'm glad they're keeping their traditions alive, etc. But that is not the only way that shamanism emanates, because when it comes down to it, shamanism is all about communing. Not communing with gods, not communing with demons, although a shaman would argue that you will meet dark entities, you will meet unpleasant beings that will attempt to attack you, control you, whatever, for whatever their reasonings. That's when you start getting into all that metaphysical kind of world environment. But shamanism itself is about the ability, the acts, the knowledge of, the skill of, the sense, in the same way as your other five senses, the tool that allows you to commune between a purely three-dimensional environment, experience, sense, into a much more open, energetic, flowing, dimensional experience. So a lot of what I've done has been deconstructionism, to try and shake those boxes, shake those foundations, to make people look at the roots of where things come from, or maybe help them question the way they question, the way they approach looking at information, the way they approach digesting it. Take an idea on board does not necessarily mean you have to accept it. If you don't think about these things, you'll find it harder to fit them into your daily life when they come and slap you in the face. So anyway, yes, I've rambled off a fair bit. Again, synchronicities, that was mainly just what I wanted to rant about. I've sort of ranted about it to a few people recently. And as I've tried to get across with the vlogs I've done and comments I've posted and whatever, I know there's a certain amount of ego to this, of me waving a flag saying, look at me, listen to what I'm saying, and that, I feel that is somewhat unavoidable. That's a catch-22 of I'm damned if I do and I'm damned if I don't. And if I don't say it, it won't be heard and potentially won't be said. So I resist that pejorative of being accused of doing this purely to gain attention or whatever. I'm not attempting to ride on the kudos of other people or the work they've done. This is a pointing out of look people, you're all singing the same song, you're all dancing round the same fire, dancing the same dance, banging the same rhythms, yet you seem to be reticent to acknowledge the others, and that just instigates an environment, a paradigm of us and them, you and the other, the enemy, the opposite, the polarization, the duality. And in that position, you are then automatically positioned to be pushed through that Hegelian dialectic Phoenix gate. If you really want to take your power back, if you really want to have the power back for yourself in that sovereign manner, in that emancipate yourself from mental slavery, and the first thing you need to do is see that thing for what it is. See that process for the prism that it is. The everything that is the ultimate rainbow spectrum, the infinite rainbow spectrum. It's not just the limited colours that we normally describe as the rainbow colours. It's an infinitely long spectrum of everything. It's passed through the prism that is you, yourself, and comes out as the experience you have, the white light focus of the experience you are having in this human experience, which is part and parcel of the 3D environment, as well as all the other dimensions that are in that infinite spectrum. You are at that point, that very focal point of the shamanistic communication that goes on in that process. So take ownership of that, and don't let them position you in such a way that you're getting pushed into that Phoenix gate. Yes, anyway. The tsunami wave of awakened consciousness has already landed. Like I've argued recently, as far as I'm concerned, maybe it's just my current point in time and space, etc. But that tipping point has already been passed. That tsunami wave is rapidly spreading into the hinterland. This stuff is becoming mainstream because it's inevitable that it would become mainstream. The point, the have to wait for point has already been and gone, folks. You're catching up. I'm not saying that to be denigratory to anyone, to have a go at anyone. No, not at all. If anything, I'm trying to boost the confidence that you are already in that process. That process is already ongoing. Step out of the cave, look at the horizon. Yes, I think I will leave it there. I might be back next week, I might not. I don't know. Like I said, I need to get other people involved in this. But yes, anyway, we'll see how things flow. I'll still be here, I'll still be doing stuff, I'll certainly still be putting this up on YouTube and whatever. You can find me on YouTube, Hairy Cookie Monster. I think, it's one of the reasons why I ended up with that nickname is because nobody else on the internet has got it. So it's just, well, as far as I know, that's probably going to happen now. There's going to be hundreds of them. Anyway, yeah. I will leave it there, and I'll play you out some stuff for those agents that might be listening. I'll be surprised if they are. But just for the sort of legacy digital recording that I know will be backed up somewhere in some super server mega farm out in Utah or wherever it is. Whichever particular one this recording gets shunted into, I'm going to play you. I know I've played it before, but I think it's worth playing again. Open message to the NSA from Storm Clouds Gathering, and then I'll play A Colour, Find No Enemy, and Wind It Out, Bob Marley Redemption song, because I haven't played it for a few weeks. So yes, folks, take care. As I said right at the beginning, no links this week, just me fractally rambling about that current moment in time, which happens to be now, and was then. And was then. What time is it now? Yes, now I'm getting silly. Take care, folks. Keep talking, keep progressing, keep looking, keep searching, keep questioning, keep creating, keep laughing, keep loving, keep enjoying, keep dancing, keep singing, keep evolving.